this is a new segment that we're doing on each Thursday show called Autism in the Classroom, because I don't know about you, as a former teacher, it has become very important to me that we're not giving teachers the tools that they need. And we do have more and more teachers who are watching the show and writing in and asking questions about how do I do this in the classroom? What do I do? And I think more and more parents are writing in and saying, you know, I've gotten my home program together or I've gotten my center-based program together, but my frustration is school. And I'm trying to shore that up for you. So, you know, like what to do for the IEP and what to know what your rights are. But then also we can't just like know what our rights are and stand there and go do it. Because if people don't have the tools, you know what I mean? And I remember being a classroom teacher, and in the beginning, nobody gave me any tools. And then gradually, I went out and started finding them on my own. So I want to make a place where our parents can find tools to give teachers, and our teachers can find tools, even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, for those good teachers who, you know, you lay awake at night and go, what am I going to do about this kid? I want to make sure that I can reach this kid. So our autism, and by the way, it won't just be me doing autism in the classroom tips. I've been lining up people, I've been meeting with people. We're going to start having some really amazing educators on the show who are going to give tips about how they get things done. So our tip today for autism in the classroom is that everybody needs a job. And I mean that both literally and figuratively, right? One of the purposes of education, and one of the things that's outlined in FAPE, is that it needs to be helping our children to be able to have productive lives, which includes a job. And I think we all need to get on that page and helping to have our kids be ready and not have it be a surprise. There are going to be people who are going to tell you over and over and over again, well, kid with autism, they're probably not going to have a job. I'm asking all of you to reject that because it isn't the truth, and it doesn't have to be the truth. So we want to be working in our education process to be looking at what's the end goal, educated so that they can have a job that's meaningful to them, because that's what a meaningful life looks like. And so how do we start that? By a microcosm in the classroom. And the truth of the matter is you can see the benefit in a classroom, because how do we get inclusive in a classroom? How do we make people want to do good things? How do we make them want to learn? Everybody needs to feel like they have a seat at the table. And how do we do that? Simply, one of the tricks of doing it is to give people a job. So we see this in kindergarten classes. If there's a kindergarten teacher who runs their class really well, they have a visual thing that's up on the board that says, you know, the person who's leading the Pledge of Allegiance today is Bobby, and the person who's turning off the lights, who's in charge of closing the door, is, you know, Sue. And each one of the jobs is clearly defined on a visual schedule. That's a kindergarten teacher who's rocking it. And by the way, that's good for all the kids in the classroom, not just the kids who are on the autism spectrum. But sometimes by the time we get to second, third grade, teachers feel that that's not necessary, or maybe that's too baby. And I say poppycock to that. Let's move the jobs up to meet the age limit. What we see sometimes is that they'll say, oh, well, you know, they pick the two kids who are the ones who are the best at executive functions and have them be the classroom monitors that pass out the papers. And I'm suggesting that we have it be fair and equitable, and that we make sure that every single person in the classroom has a job. And sometimes we create a job because it's what's right for that student. My quick example, because I know we've got guests galore, when I was first teaching a 7th grade class, and I didn't have all the tools that I wanted to, and I got to read with them my favorite childhood book, A Wrinkle in Time. I couldn't have been more excited, and I went into this classroom and I had one student who, I mean, was all but tearing the walls down, and I really did not know what to do. And I started going to everybody and trying to figure out what makes this kid tick. And what I found out was that he was not doing well in any of his classes, failing all of them except art. And he had an A in art. And the more I got to know this kid, I discovered that he could not read. And I'm his English teacher, right? It was a difficult thing. Well, I needed to give this kid a job. And so what I did, I needed him to sit and listen as we were reading out loud so that he would get interested in this book. I knew he would get interested in it. So I made him our class illustrator. And his job every day that we would, and there was just a portion of the class that we would read aloud, was to draw whatever he heard. Now, suddenly I had a student who was listening. And at the end of the class, he had to stand in front of the class and show them what he drew. And they all went, whoa, that is so, because he was a beautiful artist. It gave him self-worth, gave him self-esteem. And before the end of the semester, that child was reading. But it was because we gave him a job. There's a job for everyone. Find out what job, again, we did DRI today, differential reinforcement of incompatible behaviors. A child who has a job is not acting out, because while they're doing the job and getting praise for it, they can't be throwing spitballs, spitting on their hand, hitting the person next to them, pulling the ponytail. It's DRI. Full circle moment. Give them a job, and we will train them that having a job is the thing to do.